Hello, today I'm going to talk about Alcatraz and the island border issue. I doubt I'm alone in worrying about what is going to be the outcome of this whole Brexit fiasco. But whether you're a leaver or a remainer, we are all in the same boat together, and it will affect all of us regardless of the final outcome. My thoughts today are about the unpalatable Irish issue sticking in our collective craw. I have a thought which I believe cuts to the heart of this Irish hard border issue, that noose we are happily tying around our own neck at the behest of Europe. You see, when all is said and done, this is all about power and money. The power to decide what we wish to believe and to make our own decisions, and the power to decide how to make our money. Pretty much the one thing that any adult really desires, and as an extension of that, any nation. As a nation, we've enjoyed a relatively peaceful 70 years, a hard-won 70 years, following over 500 years of trying to protect our beliefs and borders from every other country in Europe. From the vast and incredibly rich Spanish Empire, the Europe spanning Napoleonic Empire, and the burgeoning German Reich. All these wars we fought, and often fought, much of them on our own, to protect us from being conquered by force of arms. We are primarily a nation of traders, and through trade our empire was built. There was force of arms there as well, but generally to protect our interests rather than for the actual conquering of nations. Yet these earlier wars were bent on the destruction and conquering of our nation, the destruction of our church and our way of life. For 500 grueling years we protected that through our ancestors' blood and sweat, their intransigence to giving up on what often appeared to be a lost cause, winning through eventually, each and every time. Now, over an attempt to once more regain control of our borders and sovereignty, which has been stealthily leached away over the past few decades, rather than standing tall and doing what we must, people of this country are willing to put a noose around our neck, tie our hands behind our back, and sign away any rights for the removal of that noose, passing the other end to the very nations that have spent over half a millennia trying to wrest those freedoms from us. And we are going to believe in their good faith? I would not trust anyone to that level. It's all about money and power. Loving parents, brothers, sisters, children, all have suffered termination from their nearest and dearest just to get their hands on an inheritance. Money, power, does not corrupt. The canker's already there. It just helps it to swim to the surface. Old dears are half beaten to death in the street or even in their own homes for a few measly pounds. And you think the lure of having the United Kingdom swinging forever from a yardarm, a vassal state, helplessly tied up because they signed a document, a self-declaration of insanity, is not what these nations have dreamed of forever? I could be wholly wrong, or I could be right. Even if I'm wrong, what's to say that in a year or two there isn't a shift of power within Europe, and that is exactly how they will translate the treaty we have agreed to. Then we are shelved forever. No power, no say. After 500 years of blood and toil, to be swung into the air by a silken net of vapid promises, and a belief in their good faith. Treaties are a form not to have on good faith. They have a legally binding course, so good faith is not necessary, though a certain level of trust is always required. Treaties can be torn up. We don't want a hard border in Ireland, and nor do they, or so they state. If that is the case, then it will be worked towards, because we both want it. It is wholly unnecessary, horrifically dangerous and prejudicial to us for it to be linked to a treaty. If both sides want it, then that is where the good faith should lie. We'll trust them to try to deliver it, and they should do so with us. If it is possible, it will happen. If it isn't, it won't. But that's the case anyway. There is no good faith from Europe. The hard border and the backstop is the last thread in the net. How do we know where the European bloc think their best interests lie? I would think keeping us dangling whilst they carve up our fisheries, Gibraltar and anything else would be a fair bet. They have forever, or they will have forever, to work on it. We will be powerless until we accede to all their demands. This is a pretty poor deal. A permanent vassal state, with no powers until they deem we have been bled so dry, and we are more bother to keep than to cut adrift a dried out, exhausted hulk. That's a pretty bad deal, I'd say. And it could take forever or never to be fully bled. I think no deal sounds 1,000 times better than that, or anything remotely like it. We'll be the whipping boy of Europe until they tire of it. There is no good faith in this deal, just stupidity on our side. A belief in fair play, which is fine when you hold a hand to smash your opponent if they show that your trust was misplaced. But under any other circumstance, it's insanity. Stand together, be firm, and bite the damn bullet if we have to. Keep the noose from our necks and the lead out of their hands.